I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. We are at the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting at the Mitchell County Courthouse. It is Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. And we have an agenda before us. Any comments on that agenda? Hearing none.
Are you keeping, table?
Number 8.
I'm, moved to make a motion to include the agenda.
Todd's made a motion.
I'll second that.
Mike has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say the same. Moving on. Approve the minutes of May 4th meetings and claims. So, is there, everybody had a chance to read the last week's minutes? Is there any additions or corrections?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the May 4th meeting and the claims.
Jim's made a motion to approve. Mark has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Rachel?
Roll call. Jim?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
So we have approved the minutes and the claims for May 4th. County Attorney, are you out there, Mark?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Do you have anything for us?
I don't have anything for you unless you have some questions.
I don't see anybody squirming around in the chair, so it sounds like we're okay. So, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Moving on, Sheriff update.
Good morning, everyone. The only thing I would have, Todd brought up just a couple minutes ago, some of the claims or bills you might see coming from my office in regards to hiring of a new deputy. So there's some things that we have to do, like an MMPI, which is a psych test. And so the four or five applicants that we did that for, it cost me $150 each to have that examined. We administer it at no cost. We've trained our people that we can do that at our shop. But then it has to be sent down to the academy, and they charge us $150 per examination of those psych tests. So if you see those in there, or did see them, and question it, that's what they're for. We get some of that back throughout the course of the year because they ask for instructors from agencies to come down and assist with academy classes, and then we get credited $100 back when we send someone. So we try and do that also to offset some of those costs. So if you saw that in there and wondered what it was, that was essentially what it was about. So new deputies up and running, so we're at full staff and budget's in good shape. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer. So, okay.
What was the new deputy's name again?
Chuck Bankston.
Chuck, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sheriff. County engineer update. Rich?
Couple of things to update on. First, we'll be having a pre-con this afternoon at 1:30 for the Foothill paving project. Just so you're aware of that, we'll find out then what the schedule will be for those guys and then who their subcontractors are. Requested the information, they haven't sent it to me, so we'll find out today. And then Friday we took quotes on our maintenance painting and maintenance rock runs. The paint was a little bit higher. We had one paint company that didn't supply a quote, who usually does, but I don't know if it's just because they couldn't get paint or don't have enough workers anymore, or they got swamped, so. In the past, like last year's paint quote was $18.06 a gallon, it's now $19.85 a gallon, so it's about a 10% hike in price compared to last year, but after quoting it, we're not gonna get anything better than that. We did add a few more miles this year than last year just because we thought we needed it, so we're looking at probably around an $18,000 increase, about $76,000, which is a little bit higher than budget, but maybe we'll find some leeway somewhere in the budget to cover that. So we're gonna award, we'll let the paint contractor know that they can dig that this year, and then we quoted out the rock run last Friday, got the results last Friday. Last year's prices were $13.32 a ton. With about 60,000 tons, we cut back a little bit on the tonnages just because we had some, we're trying to make budgets work then. This year we're at $13.50 a ton, so roughly about a 1.3% increase, but we added about just under 3,000 tons more on that, and then we required belly dumps to deliver except for at intersections, because belly dumps have a hard time dumping at intersections, so we're going to allow dump trucks to dump intersections and belly dumps to run the long stretches, and so we're looking at about $850,000 and change for that event. A little bit higher than last year. Last year we spent about $806,000 as per quote. The numbers change depending on the tonnages that get put down, so we'll kind of keep an eye on a little bit. Our quote package allows us 80% of what we bid up to 120% they need to provide, but we'll probably be in the right range anyway. So that's all I've got for you this morning, other than, like I said, the pre-con, and then we'll know what's happening with the schedules and stuff then.
Did Camline?
Camline did not.
They did not?
Yeah, so it would have been, the one that's gonna get the quote on the paint is gonna be Vogel Traffic Services. It was Vogel and Iowa Plains Signing who submitted, and Iowa Plains Signing was substantially higher by almost, the total price quote was almost double. So I don't know what's going on with paint, unless they were just that busy and they can just name their price, but.
That's odd, or Camline didn't.
I know, and you know, they were all over it on time, and maybe they've got enough work that they just couldn't fit it in.
And as far as Rockland, did more than one contractor? Or
Just one contractor.
One contractor?
Yep.
One producer?
We sent it out to 2 and only 1 replied, so.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything for Rich? Do you have any more, Rich?
No, I'm good. I know you guys are gonna talk about, drainage in the county maintenance shed, so I wanna stick around. If we're gonna be digging out there soon, I wanna kinda maybe hear what's happening with that, so.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Moving on, 21-22 Heartland Renewal presentation. And that's Judy. I'll let you have the floor.
Here you go. Here's just the kind of renewal that I like to deliver. It looks really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seems like I was just here as I came out to meet you all. This is our standard way that we deliver the renewal. We went through it with the board. Mark was there on Thursday. Had some surprises we didn't expect, but the board is covering those. So we'll go through those in just a minute. What you have in your packets are your current schedules. So you've got property, your auto, your inland marine, and your workers' compensation. What we do is shut off all your changes as of May 31st. So if you get a new sheriff's car June 4th, it goes on the schedule. You don't pay for it in this renewal. It gets picked up next year. Same thing if you get rid of a sheriff's car June 6th. It comes off the schedule, but that's what you paid your premium based on. So it's a little bit different than the regular insurance marketplace. We try to cut down on billing you throughout the year so that when you get your bill, Gallagher stops the changes on May 31st. I get them and then I bill as of June 15th. So anything else, again, with equipment or cars after that gets added, you just don't pay for it until the next year. And that way the auditor's office isn't inundated with bills all year long. So Lindsay knows that, and we work with her on that. Premium credit, we talked about that a little bit the last time I was here. In January, the board voted on premium credits. Again, $350,000 was split out among the 10 counties. And how we figure that is, you've been with us since 1987, July 1st. So we take all of the money you paid in on the self-funded product since then, net out your claims, and then that shows what your amount of surplus is. And so that gives you then your percentage of that $350,000. So your premium credit is $27,755. That comes off the bottom line. And then also your special acceptances, early childhood, the landfill, E911, emergency management, their premium credits total $2,800. And I was out at the landfill yesterday and met your new director out there, really nice guy, and we went through the renewal with him and with Lori. So he seemed pleased with that. So the next sheet there just gives you an idea of your coverage. Mitchell County has $4 million per occurrence. When we do your quote page, we'll talk a little bit about your limits. The board historically you were at $3 million up until about 5 or 6 years ago, then bounced it up to $4 million. I will tell you that's a little light, but that is totally your decision on where you want to be with your limits. We've got one county as high as $10 million. We've got you at 4, and most everyone else fits in the 6, 7, 8 kind of level. So that's something that you can talk about as a board. And again, not trying to compare you to task force, just telling you historically they were comfortable with the 4, but I do have quotes if you would like to add additional limits on that. So what this sheet here tells you, that first paragraph there is kind of an introduction, kind of a replay of what we talked about the last time I was here. Your property coverage, that covers your buildings, your contents, your inland marine, any fine arts that you might have. There's $1,000 deductible per loss there. The liability coverage, that would be your general liability, business auto, law enforcement liability, and public officials liability. General liability is typically your slips and falls in a courthouse maybe, your motor graders if there's an accident on the road, or if there's an issue with the road where someone alleges, I didn't know the curb was there, your sign was down, those are general liability. Law enforcement liability is really easy, that's everything that comes from the sheriff's office. And then your public officials liability would be things like decisions you make that someone's not happy with and they're suing you for money because of that, or employment practices, open meetings, open records. That's what comes out of public officials liability. Your crime coverage there, that is not employee fidelity coverage. I think you get that from a local broker, I believe. What that is that covers your cash and securities you have in the offices. So if someone has a petty cash box and someone comes in and steals that, you've got a $500 deductible, but you do have coverage for that if someone steals the cash. Workers' compensation is a statutory benefit. We'll spend a little bit of time on workers' comp in a few minutes. Cyber coverage, that was a big topic at the meeting because we've got some issues with it across the board, so we'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then your equipment breakdown coverage is your old, what we call the boiler machinery. So in just talking about the renewal for the board, we expected a large increase on the property because across the board, I think we've had 7 claims in the last 8 years. So you have a $1,000 property deductible. The Heartland has a $100,000 retention. So with the derecho we got hit, those reserves are probably a little bit over $3 million because of the 4 counties and 1 entity that got hit. We've had a couple of fires out at the landfill. We had a fire at another transfer station, and then we had a big hailstorm 2 years ago. So we add all that up together, then we add the marketplace getting harder, and so Heartland got hit with a pretty good chunk of renewal. Now we budgeted for that. I wish my 8-ball worked better sometimes, but it was in the budget for the amount of increase we got. Heartland did not pass that on to you as members. Because 1, we've got the surplus to take care of it, and 2, we budgeted knowing we were gonna get that kind of increase. Same thing on the liability side, we budgeted for that increase. That has nothing to do with claims, knock on wood. Heartland's been pretty good on the liability side the last 10 years. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 21 years, and I can count on probably one hand where we have had liability claims. So that has a $400,000 retention. But the marketplace gets harder and harder, and so again, we budgeted for the increase we got, did not pass that on to the member. Would you expect that you wanted to take on $250,000 deductible on that? No. So what we did, the board decided to do kind of a stopgap. This is effective July 1. So as of today, you have a $20,000 deductible, just like you had last year. Now, the difference would be, we split it with Heartland last year, 10-10, now that 20 is yours. But when we meet on July 8th, then the board is going to come up with some kind of final answers on how to handle that deductible. What we did was, we asked the cyber carrier to come back and tell us by member, what is it for each county that you're not happy with? What are you uncomfortable with? And they did that, and so Gallagher put that together. I believe you've got your sheet that came from Gallagher. We want you to share those with your IT people, so you can go back through what it is they're not happy with and how you're going to address it. We had one county that got an A+. They had all of their issues had already been covered, so the underwriter was happy with them. So if you've got dings on your report, you're 1 of 9. Not everybody was perfect. So what we're trying to do is get answers to that. Maybe someone answered questions wrong on the application and didn't understand it, or maybe there's something in the works that's not done yet. So we want to make sure we go back to that. If you and your IT people have any questions, we'll get them with the right people to go through those questions. But we'd like to get answers back by the end of May, so we can go back to the underwriters. Premium-wise, we're right about where we were last year for premium. What we'd like to do is do everything we can to get that retention lowered. So that's our goal right now. So that's your coverage breakdown. Then you've got a comparison between what you paid last year and what you're going to be, or what we anticipate you're going to be billed this year. I'll take you right down to the bottom line. You're about 5% down, which is great, especially in this marketplace. Again, if you were out in the standard market, you would not be seeing a 5% decrease, you'd be seeing increases. Your property is up just a little bit, and that's just exposure changes. The only rates that change this year are workers' compensation, and that's because we get those from the state. Heartland has not changed any rates for years and years. So your property coverage is up just a little bit because of your exposure. Inland marine is down just a little bit because you got rid of some equipment. Equipment breakdown is about the same. Your errors and emissions is the same. That's based on your number of employees. That didn't change. Law enforcement is down, let's see, we are down a person. And I believe the sheriff said you just added one, but we use the numbers we got in March. So those numbers will stay the same. And the reason why 3/4 of a person there, your full-time people are 1, are considered 1. If you have a dog, that's a 1. If you've got part-time or reserve officers that work over 35 hours a week, they're considered a half a body. If you've got reserve or part-time officers that work 35 hours a month, if they're more than 35 hours a month, and then if they're less than 35 hours a month, they're considered quarter. So that's why you've got 25 3/4 there for your count. General liability is based on your expenditures, and if you remember, we do a 6-year averaging. Well, the reason why you're exactly the same is because you're saying 2 years came out, so the average is the same, so you didn't see an increase there. Vehicles, you're down by 2, and then your payroll is up by about almost 14%, but because your mod factor took a dive of 22%, which is awesome, that's why you're seeing the reduction in your workers' compensation, and we'll go through that mod factor calculation in just a minute. And then that second sheet there is some of our counties allocate all of their dollars out by coverage, by department. Some counties don't allocate at all. So that's just there in case you allocate, and we just take the premium credit and then apportion it out by coverage and come up with your net number of the 242. Your next sheet there just shows your premium history and general liability. Up until 17-18, people's general liability went up and down because it's based on your expenditures. You know, your budget's going up and down every year. Then we came up and got the underwriter to agree to letting us average over, we take 6 years, we throw out the high year, we throw out the low year. And that's why, again, your premium is exactly the same as last year because the same 2 years got thrown out. Then you've got your property schedule there. Lindsay does a nice job of sending it out to all your department heads so they know what's on there. I think she sends it out probably in February, probably at renewal time as well. Then you've got inland marine, which is your equipment, and your automobile schedule is there. And then Mark, I think we got that figured out on the St. Anne's Fair building. Got some information from Rachel and then also talk to Melissa about that, so I think we're good. I think the building.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
When we had built the building, we had tried to make sure we put it in on insurance, and I think the number we were looking at was what we paid for the building plus a little bit more. That building was like, was it $375,000 to build? Then we had a little bit more for the property, and then there's an additional, I think there's an additional $100,000 for the fuel tank and the salt shed, so I think that's what the total is there, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I asked Melissa to break that down for us, because we've got to show what is exactly the fuel tank and what is exactly the salt shed.
And I don't know how those numbers came about as far as how they were combined,
Okay.
but we can break that. We know what we paid for the fuel tank. I don't know if you guys modify those percentages and all per year, or,
We take exactly what you give us.
okay.
And that's why we've got the Gallagher Bassett building estimates that come out, and the board gets those. We send them out in October, December, and January, so you can kind of look at what Gallagher Bassett's estimating your buildings. We don't do anything with the contents. They don't do anything with buildings that are under 50,000. But, you know, with TAMA going through, TAMA's reserve on that ratio is like 2.8 million, and they've got some buildings that were undervalued, so they're kind of feeling that pinch of,
Well, the last thing we want to do is undervalue the building. I mean, trying to build that building now would probably be substantially higher than what we paid for it.
Yeah, so-
16 or 15, I think it was.
this shows, yeah, it was added
16.
April of 2016. So, again, I cannot stress that enough, making sure that your buildings are keeping up with what the replacement costs are.
Well, they probably aren't. When I looked at what Osage's was, I don't think that's enough either for, what was that? Osage is at 700 and some thousand for the new shop. And maybe it is, I guess I haven't been in touch for a while, but I know that the way prices are now and the way buildings are getting more expensive, I don't know that that's changed much.
Yeah, it says 678, 413.
And I suppose the 413 probably covers the cold storage, but that's a pretty big building. I don't think you'd build it for that much. I don't know.
I'm showing storage at 124, 886.
Yeah, that's probably too cheap. But
Now, we do have a margin clause of 25%. If the building is completely totaled, then we've got some scotch room in there, but we don't want people to rely on that, because as TAMA's finding out that 25% isn't enough for some of their buildings.
So we or the board comes up with those numbers that we want to, okay, I guess I just wanted to make sure they were always on the list, and somebody else was always kind of making sure the numbers were
Yeah,
keeping up.
That's up to you and the
Okay,
board.
all right.
Now, I will resend you the Gallagher Bassett estimates that we talked about in January, so you have those. And that's a good thing to look at, because Gallagher Bassett uses Marshall Swift, which takes your building materials and cost of labor by zip code. So a building, a $500,000 building would probably cost more to build in Polk County than it might up here. And so that's why they take the zip codes, and it's a nationally recognized software program that they use. So I'll resend you those so you can look at them.
So is that what you were seeing, Mark, when you came and visited the one day? You were saying that it looked small compared to,
Yeah, because it showed 100,000 on what we were insuring it for, and that must have been the old shop.
okay, that could have been,
And then we added this new one.
okay.
We got it.
I will email that to you when I get back to the office today. You want me to send it to you too?
Sure,
So then you can take a look at it.
yeah.
Okay. Same thing with your inland marine. Now, inland marine, we're not able to value those for you. You'll need to value those. Same thing with your cars. Cars are on actual cash value, everything else is on replacement value. So as you look through those schedules, if you have any other questions, you can let me know and I can get your questions answered for you. And then the next thing that we want to talk about is your workers' compensation. Your workers' compensation is another part of your good news renewal, because your mod factor came down so far. And those of you that have not heard about modification factors before, with workers' compensation, the industry wants to they estimate where they think you're going to be based upon your sector, which is public entity, based upon the classifications, the work classifications you have, and based upon the payrolls that you have per classification. So then we run this through a software program that basically tells us where do we think you're going to be? Now, one would be average. We think you're gonna be like everybody else, and your premium isn't modified. If your experience looks like it's not gonna be so good, and it's easier to see once we look at the charts, it's easier to understand, you're gonna get modified up and you're gonna pay more money. If your experience is better than expected, or better than people that are, a like kind of entity, then you're going to see, you're not gonna pay as much premium because your experience is better. Again, it will make more sense once I show you the charts. But the sheet you're looking at right now is the calculation we go through. We get the estimates from the auditor's office. We take the rates we get from the state, and then it's the premium based on $100 of payroll there. So you can see your gross premium is $155,893. Then we take your mod factor, and because of the experience you have, you are getting 30% off of that $155,000. That brings you down to $109,000. Now then, Heartland also has premium discounts. Don't confuse that with the premium credit we already talked about. Heartland has those 3 different premium discounts there that take off your premium. So it started at a $155,893, ends up at $76,687. So if you were in the regular marketplace, you would have a very similar mod factor. So you would start again with right around $109,000. No promise that you would get any other kind of discounts that Heartland offers you on that. So that's why your premium comes down so low. Now the next sheet there is just a chart to show you the history of your mod factor. And as you can see there, with your 0.70, that's the lowest you've been in a long time. Now historically, and people kind of were kidding Mark when we were giving out the safety awards, Mitchell County walks away with really the biggest percentage of the safety awards, and it has to do with just your climate, your workplace. It has to do with secondary roads, it has to do with sheriff, where we see most of the injuries come from all the counties, is just what they're doing to keep the accidents down in their counties. So it's your department heads, your employees are working hard, it's your department heads that are setting the example for safe workplace. So a 0.70 to have for your mod factor is awesome. It's one of the lowest ones in the pool. Okay, and then your next handout there with the blue bar, just the first page introduces it. And again, this comes from ModMaster. It's a software program. Work up your mod factor is actuarially driven, so thank goodness I don't have to do those calculations. I put in your data and the software does it for me. So page 2, as you can see there in the top box, shows your payrolls by classification. Those are audited payrolls. So this gets a little confusing. So find column 5, and you can see that your expected losses are $73,214. Everybody see that under column 5 right there in the middle? Now just draw an arrow over to column 10. So you can see your expected losses are over $73,000, but your actual losses were $5,752. That's awesome. That's why we're looking at a 0.70 mod factor. So when we do that, we look at the prior 3 years. We don't look at what's happening in 2021, but we're looking at 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. Same thing on the next section. Look at your column 5, expected losses of almost 68,000, but your losses were 3,662. Then we look at the next sheet right in the middle there. Expected losses 70,574. Again, that's actuarially calculated payrolls per classifications. And your losses are up just a little bit at 12,752. So we can look at those numbers all day until your eyeballs fall out. And this time of year, that's kind of what I deal with when I'm looking at numbers all day for everybody. So let's look at the best page, which are the pictures, because I think that really tells us the most. So if we look at the green columns there, your current mod, 0.70, is based on your regular premium of $109,000. Average, if you were average, that premium would bounce up to $155,000. Now keep in mind, it doesn't let me put in the Heartland discount, so we're dealing with your basic premium. And your minimum mod is a 0.68. So if we look at your controllable mod is the difference between your current mod, 0.70, and your minimum mod. Doesn't, even if you had no losses for 3 years, you'd still have a minimum mod, because actuarially, we know the losses are coming. So your controllable is just 0.02%. So they're saying you can control 3,000 of that, but if you take 30% off of that, which is your heartland discounts, you know, then your controllable is about 2,000. So there's a whole lot of counties that would pay big money to be able to trade their 1.2 mod with your 0.70. And then we look at the picture down below there. The green is your actuals, and that's what kind of what we looked at when we looked at the columns of numbers. The greens are your actuals. The goldenrod there is what your expected is. So we always look at, okay, that's great news. We're happy that our renewal came out the way it is. What's happening and how's it going to affect next year? Well, right now, Mitchell County has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 10 open claims. That's awesome. And that's all of your lines, okay? Right now, for your workers' compensation for the 2021 year, you've got open claims of 2,745, which is awesome. So provided we don't have anything big happen between now and July 1, and we don't have these claims mature anymore, which if we had more claims, we would be more concerned about that, but these look like they're medical onlys. You're gonna lose a small year, and the year you're putting back on is just about the same. So we expect your mod factor to be pretty close to the same when we do come to do next year's rate. And then the last pieces there are just the coverage summary of cyber liability, so you can see what that coverage is. You can always share that with your IT people, and then your equipment breakdown coverage, we used to call it boiler and machinery. Most of that cost goes to your inspections. You have boilers, they have to be inspected for the state. There are some hot water heaters that have to be inspected. You don't pay for those, that comes out of that coverage. Anybody have any questions? It's kind of a quick way of going through your renewal, but it's a very effective one, so budget-wise, it helps you. The other thing I did want to call your attention to is if you want to talk about your limits, again, we said you had 4 million on this page that has your renewal comparison. There are quotes there on what it would cost you if you wanted to add additional limits to your premium. You don't have to decide that today. If you do want to increase it, we would need to know by July 1st. But those are all encompassed. So if you wanted to add another $1 million, it's $2,600 for the year. If you wanted to add $2 million, it's $4,700. You don't add the two together, you just take what's the total for that. So I do ask you to kind of give that some thought, think about it, because you are a little bit on the low side, and we want to make sure we're protecting your county as well. And then you don't have to decide today on binding coverage. We just need to have that signature. You've got the signature sheet there, Mark. I'm not sure if you have an action item for it. I do. Okay. So if you can sign it today, great. If you want to wait, that's fine. We just need to get it back before June 30th.
Can you increase your limits, like say, like we decide to go to 5 million, can we come right back around next year and up it again? Or is that on so many years?
Nope, you could change it every year if you wanted, and it would be effective that year. And again, it doesn't, you don't add them all together, it's telling, if you wanted to go clear up to the 10, then you can see what that would cost.
You may have mentioned that, I may have missed it, do you recommend as far as what we should have for coverage, or is that something somebody else figures out, or gives us an idea? Or?
You know, that's a hard thing about recommendations. We don't have a crystal ball. I would say for the organization as size as the county is, in my opinion, 4 million is low. Now, in my 20+ years I've worked with Heartland, have we ever had a claim that wasn't work comp that even reached $1 million? No, we haven't. Cedar County, when they first joined the program way back in 1988, they did have a large claim, and they didn't, and I think they were only at $2 million at the time. And so they ended up having to change some tax levies because the judgment was over them. Now that was before my time, and that was, I think, in 1990 or 91. So if you did have some weird kind of claim, a school bus with a lot of kids involved, something like that, $4 million would be pretty low. I try to be a glass half full kind of person, but insurance, and keep in mind, there's no commission there. You know, I work for the board, and it's totally fee-based on an annual basis. Gallagher, who's our broker, they get commissions on cyber and some of the small stuff, but they work on a fee for everything else. So when you decide you want to increase those limits, no one is going to advise you that thinking that they're getting some commission out of it, because it is all net of commission. It's purely what you want to do, what you feel comfortable with. And again, we have one at 10 million. You're our lowest one. We've got another at 5, and then the other 7 are right between 6, 7, and 8. We're kind of split evenly. We've got kind of 2 in each one. So if you're buying coverage today, but you decide, as you talk about it, you decide next week or the next week, then you just send me a letter and just say that you want to increase it effective July 1 to whatever you feel comfortable with.
We can approve the renewal today, but we can still increase that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I just need to know that before July 1st. And again, I wish that I had a crystal ball and I could tell you, oh, no, I think your limit should be here. I just don't think that's really anybody's place, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what.
The people that have 6, 7, or 8 seem to be the average. Are they counties that are larger than us, population-wise?
Yeah, Van Buren is a little bit smaller than you are population-wise, and they're in that group. Decatur is closer to where you are, and they're pretty small. And then I would say that those that are in the 8 and the 10 are larger.
I would think since we're saving money on our other premiums, maybe we should raise it, would be my suggestion. No? Just
More discussion. Like those
That's
here,
my
I
opinion.
I think we could probably jump that amount a little bit.
Yeah, we're saving 14,000 on our premium, so I think we could raise it up, is my suggestion.
It's just how much do you want to raise it?
Well, I don't know, I'd say 1 or 2. To get closer to the normal, I don't know what's normal, but closer to.
You want to know that by July 1st if we do increase it. So I mean, we could renew it today and then just.
Yes,
respond to
this isn't
that.
something
Okay,
that's set
great.
today,
Yeah, yeah.
this is discussion, now's the time.
Yeah,
This is
right.
where we can talk.
Yeah. Well, that's what my opinion on it is, I think we could raise it $1 million or 2 based on our other premium savings, so.
And that cost does fluctuate a little bit year to year, depending on, because that goes directly to the reinsurance company. And we see that go up and down a little bit depending on our renewal. It doesn't go up huge amounts.
We're at 4 million now, and to go to 5 million, the premium rate would go up $2,600, basically, correct?
Yes.
And if we jumped it to 6 million, the rate would be 4,700,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
So, that is an amount of money, but on the other hand, it's the risk. It is a risk to go, it's a risk not to go.
Yep.
So we have a decision to make, and again, it doesn't have to be today. We can do that down the road.
Yeah, and why don't you just hold that reminder for another couple weeks as you decide? I mean, we know you're renewing, but that way then we'll just incorporate it all in one form. So you can still.
And I think Rich is here, and I think he was gonna maybe do some figuring on his buildings, and
Yeah,
then maybe
she can send me that email and we can look at those prices and see.
change there too.
Yep, I'll send that today when I get back to the office.
Might be something you wanna have Adam Shirley look at, because tonight's the meeting, right?
Yep.
Discuss this with him. For conservation, if there's something, this is the time to do that.
Yep.
We updated Riverside Park to match Halverson for Adam.
Pardon?
The Riverside Park, we updated for him to match.
Okay, so Adam has done some,
He did do that. I don't know if there's others he needs to look at.
Yeah, I'll make sure that
see that one.
If Richwood, he reevaluates his building and stuff, these premiums won't change any?
No, that's property, this is strictly liability. Yep, so,
That would be our property that would raise.
and depending on what you budgeted for, and I think this is a little lower than what we gave you in January, so you can check your budget to see what kind of money you have in there, but, I think we had you at 273, 274, maybe that's something like that. So, for budget, we may have the money. I'm not trying to pressure you,
No.
I just think it's important for you to be protected and.
Correct, yes.
Not taking it that way.
Okay.
so.
Yep.
Any other questions? Heartland appreciates you being a member, and it's good to have Mark on there, asked lots of good questions, and had some good points, and it was kind of an interesting meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah. Cyber's gonna be bad. Oh, boy.
I'm just really hoping that we get good answers from everybody, and if we could cut that in half, that'd be great, and then decide how the pool's. But we know how it's gonna be handled as of January 1. Just make sure your department heads know, if they even have an inkling that they think they have been hacked in some way or another, to let me know immediately, because the coverage doesn't kick in until the notification starts. And we hope we get everybody through to July and everybody's fine, but the difference in reporting your claim June 30th versus waiting until July 1 is a big difference. So just make sure your department heads know, if they have any inkling at all that there's something going on with your system, let me know. I don't care if it's 12 o'clock midnight, I'm answering my phone, let me know.
Casey's on it right now.
Yep. Hi.
Oh, hi, good, good. And please don't think that I'm trying to point fingers at any IT people.
Sure.
This is just what we're getting from the underwriters as they work on this, and so we just want to work with everybody to see what we can do to improve it.
And as far as any changes to maybe the answers for that renewal, do I just email those to you?
Yeah, that'd be fine, I'll get it to the right people.
Okay.
And we're just hoping we can get everybody submitted by May 1.
Yeah, sure.
That's great.
May 1 or June?
June 1.
June 1, okay.
Or May 31st. Pick your date, May 31st or June 1. You can tell, I'm working on lots of numbers, my brain's a little fried.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
for your
Thank you.
Presentation. We should probably go through the action part of this anyways.
I'll make a motion to approve the Heartland renewal as presented. For
21, 22.
correct, 21, 22.
Jim has made a motion to approve for Heartlands for the 21, 22 year.
I'll second that.
Mark has seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Rachel?
Roll call, Mark,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Todd.
And we will let you know with any increases.
Great, that'd be awesome. Sooner the better, it'd be great. We're gonna take care.
Thank
And I'll
you.
get that stuff to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Also, September 16th is the Employment Practices Seminar. We didn't have it last year, I know, board of you are new. But it's a seminar we do in Tama County at the Nature Center, and it's pretty much all employment practices based. We have some attorneys talk, and we have the gentleman from Gallagher is gonna come and do the keynote. So I'll get the agenda out, the board will approve it July 8th, and then we'll get the agenda out, and it's open to any of your elected officials, department heads. Have you come to it sometime?
It was a long time ago I went to that.
It's the same. So, a lot of engineers come, sheriffs come, boards of supervisors, auditors are usually there. So we'll get the agenda to you in July, and then you can make some decisions, but put it on your calendar if you think that you'd be interested. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Moving on. Discussion on drainage of the new county maintenance building. I guess, who wants to have the floor first? Mr. Anderson.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I live over here on Pleasant Street, so does Keith Johnson. And over the years, there's been a lot of water pushed out in that street. I guess to give you a history, before your building was built, there was 2 houses there. there was a grass area. All the water from the church and everything went in that, drained into the grass. The parking lot, that was all gravel. We never had an issue before with all the water out into the street like we have now. It was paved, the church did. Should have been drainage put in, never did. When the home health care was put in, there should have been drainage put in. It was talked about it. Why the board didn't do it at the time when the building was built, I can't tell you. None of you guys, I don't think, was on the board at the time. Jim, did you know anything about it?
No.
And as engineer, Boaklander was on. He brought it up with the other supervisors. It was thrown out. Don't know why. I don't know if it was on the plans when the building was to be built. But all the water now, everything's blacktop. Alley's been oiled. So now you got everything from the church and everything coming around. I've had water all the way up to my sidewalk on a down real heavy rain. Now you're gonna blacktop and have more drainage coming out into the street on Pleasant. There's gotta be a drainage to catch it before it goes out in the street.
We don't plan on blacktopping that right away.
No, but eventually you're going to, ain't you?
Well, maybe. I mean, it's gonna be a gravel parking lot, which will probably soak in more water than the side.
It's still gonna push out, and you got the drainage coming off from the roof.
Yeah.
Where you going with that?
Does the city have requirements for pre and post runoff by chance? Does
Yeah,
anybody-
I think there is for, I think they got a deal for pushing water into the street and that. I think there is some. I haven't brought it up with the city yet. I did when we first had drainage problem out here, Kurt Elliott. Before he passed away, I brought him over and he seen how much water was being pushed in there and how much from you guys was being pushed in there. And from the church. Well, I've been with the city and I've been on there at enough meetings and that, and as supervisor, yeah, we're gonna do it, we gotta do it, and then it don't happen. It gets pushed underneath and we won't worry about it. Well,
There must be storm sewers out on the road there, correct? Or not?
there's 2 intakes in front of my place. But it backs all the way up to Keith's driveway, and you got everything coming around from Maine. You got everything from State that comes and drains around there. You got everything from 3rd Street comes around and drains around to 2 intakes. Comes so fast, it goes past it.
Past them, yeah.
So then it piles up in front of our place. So everything from your driveway pushes everything toward Keith's place. And it just floods right there. Well,
Is the city sewer capable of, is the city's drainage capable of draining it?
I think there is, because that drain right there in front of the home health care, that is, I want to say 7 foot deep, but you only got to throw about 3 inches to take the water. So before it was never a problem.
Well, I imagine there's some legal liability as how big they can have that open, so it doesn't take a body down.
Right.
Maybe they need to add another one, you know?
Well, what you need is up your parking lot to catch the water before it gets to the street.
What about the church parking lot?
Huh?
What about the church parking lot? Same deal there then?
Everything drains to the alley and comes around. Yeah, it should have
The
been.
church should, you know? Also.
You know, that's when that building was built. Should have been drainage put in. And it was talked about in front of the board up here. And it was thrown out.
Can we put an intake in the parking lot to go into the
If
sewer?
you put an intake in the park, you can see where the water and everything comes to right there.
It bowls.
And then it just rushes right out into the street. If you put one back toward there, it's going to catch the water and put it into the intake. Like I said, it's not rocket scientists to put an intake drainage in.
So we can tap into that and go to the sewer?
Yeah, you could tap into the backside of that manhole and leave it 2 foot, 3 foot up and go with a 6-inch drainage all the way back to a square intake.
Think one would do it?
6 inches isn't very much.
Well,
The question I'd have is, as far as, I know you said that you don't feel the storm sewers are backing it up, you feel it's just the
it's
amount
such a
that's
rush
on the
out
street.
there, it can't drain fast enough.
So if we're putting an intake in, we're tapping into the existing storm sewers. If they're not running at 100% capacity, well then the intake we would put in is gonna work. If they're already running at 100% capacity because we have this big rain event, it doesn't matter if we tie into it or not, it's already overloaded underground.
I understand what you're
So
saying.
that's
Yes.
my thought on it.
Yeah.
That's
And I
the
don't
question.
know which way it's happening.
That's the question, but the thing is, something's gotta be done. You just can't keep pushing it out into the street.
Again, that was the question I asked right off the bat. Does that ground pipe, is it able to take any more? If it's not,
That's something that
That'd be
you,
a city.
that's,
well, the city code is if they're in,
or below, I mean, that's,
yeah, the city code, I think it says in there
and
that you gotta get permission to push into the street. Well, I've been around, no offense, I've been around Jerry Dunley enough where he just, yeah, sure, go ahead. Well, that's part of the city's fault too. And I will bring it up with them at the next meeting,
yeah.
that something has to be done. And they know about it, it's been brought up. But nobody wants to rock the boat. Well, I do.
If the pipe in the ground on the city street isn't big enough to take
Right,
for more inlets, another inlet or 2 more inlets isn't going to change nothing. You're
right,
still
I
gonna have the
understand
same-
what you're saying, Steve. But this is why this needs to be checked before you start pushing more stuff out there.
I talked to a former city employee, and you know who it is, and he helped put those in, or he did put them in.
Yeah,
And there's plenty of drainage here, but Mother Nature is bringing rain so hard these last 5-6 years
right,
that he doesn't think that the capacity is limited. He just thinks it's coming down so hard with
Right.
these torrential downpours we're getting. It doesn't matter how big it is because it's coming so hard and it's pushing that rain, and it just keeps going farther and farther,
right.
until the rain slows down to where the drains can pull it away.
Right. But,
So I
you know,
think we should, check with the city and about an inlet in that parking lot. That's my dad,
Right.
and he said that he thinks there's plenty of capacity there to take it. It's just coming down so dang hard that, they just can't pull it away fast enough.
because it don't make a difference. Before, we never had a problem because you had all the rain going into the back lots of them 2 houses.
How long's that building been there? It's been there for
2006.
2006.
Well, again,
I mean, we've had issues since that's been put up and it should have been put in.
we all had roofs, and we all had driveways,
Right.
sidewalks.
And if you look at that, where the library is and that church, it's so much higher than it is when it comes down
Right.
to your guys' houses. So guess which way it's gonna run?
It's coming down the alley and around, and I don't care what you say. You take and you put blacktop, you put cement on top of ground. All right, now everything's running off, nothing's draining away until you get down to some end, and then it's gonna flood. Well, I'm tired of the flooding out in front of my place.
If you look at the lay of the land before even these houses were built, that is a waterway that goes just on up. east side of your house, that is where the water ran before we started building this town. And that's why those two intakes were put in the street.
Right,
The street has a.
right, it has,
lower elevation.
everything drains right to
That's
there.
why they drained it the way they did, because
Right.
now where it goes underground, I'm imagining those two inlets, one of them is probably tapped into the other one, and then that's where the storm sewer is
Right.
by one of them. I don't know if it's on the north or south side. And from
The
there,
one
I
on the
don't-
south side goes to the north side,
Okay.
and then it goes down to Fifth Street, and then goes out.
Okay, Fifth, and then goes out where, which way?
Goes out south,
Okay.
and that.
You know how big they are, by chance?
Oh, God, I wanna say they gotta be at least 8 inch, and then they go into 24 inch.
Yeah, that's not, okay. Underground, you think it's?
It's all underground.
That's not real big.
No.
And that.
For the amount that's.
But not the whole town comes to here. Your town is broke up in different sections
Right.
for drainage.
But we can add all the inlets we want and still won't get the drainage that you're asking for.
No,
Some of this is a city issue too.
yes, I will agree with you, unless they got something that will show how much water will go into them.
Yeah. And again, like I was bringing up earlier, we all have roofs and driveways and sidewalks.
That, now, hold it, supervisor in this town I was, and I've seen drainage and I've seen everything come off in the streets. This is the worst one. And coming off your house and everything, it never did before, Steve, so telling me that what comes off my house, most of our drains go into our grassed areas.
Right. But
So-
again, we have gotten more rain events where it's.
Yes, I agree with you.
6, 8 inches.
But none of my drains or anything on these houses here is piped out to the street. They're in the yards and they drain away.
Well, I'll bet some of your water gets down in the streets too, you know.
Mine goes to the alley, then goes over to Jackie Trout's lot, which that fills up, drains away. That's the way it used to, and it used to cross the road and go to a culvert underneath the tracks and went to a, into the ground right there.
There's an inlet at Jackie Trout's, didn't you guys put one in there years ago?
Yeah, well, see, there used to be a ditch that ran all the way over around 4th Street, across there into the, underneath the road on Chestnut, went underneath the railroad tracks, and went in the crevice. Iowa State came up and went down that crevice years ago. That's a big crevice that went down in there. We filled it in. Now it just drains into the yard and goes away.
So to put an intake in, we gotta talk to the city, or?
Well, in your parking lot, yeah. You would have tapping into the cities, yes.
Probably be our next step.
But you guys ain't the first ones that have tapped in to city inlets. But I'm gonna go talk to the council and bring it up with them and that, and go from there, but it's gotta be done, something's gotta be done.
Well, my concern is if putting in an inlet and it doesn't gain us anything because the pipe is too small to take what the two inlets are on the street,
Yeah,
there's my issue.
right, I understand what you're saying.
We have that, and let's go back to Mother Nature, the dang torrential downpours. you
Right.
know, we
And
just
that's the
can't
thing,
do
that's
anything
why-
about that, but
That's why I'm here now with the downpours, we're having more and more. And since that building's been put up, our street floods. And this is where it starts, is right here. Before, we never had a problem. Because everything drained away into the gravel or into the backyard. So you see where I'm coming from.
Correct. But again, we can
Right.
add an inlet
Well, there had to been something done if it would have been on the prints, that there would have been enough to go in. Why wasn't it put in? That's my question.
Again, like bridges are put in, or culverts are put in for an average rainfall. And on an average rainfall,
Right.
everything works. But when you get these major rain events, where it's a massive gush of water,
I understand what you're saying. Now, answer my question. Why wasn't it put in when it was supposed to be?
well, you're gonna have to ask the previous board on that.
He
But
did.
again, was it an issue then?
Before that building was put in, never was an issue.
Again, without having proper drainage from the sewer line below,
Well, they must have had something if it was supposed to go in to begin with, whoever engineered that up. Have you looked on the blueprints to see if there was something on there? Because then it would have been engineered and it would have showed that there would have been enough drainage for that to handle. Right?
possibly.
Well, if you paid the money to have it engineered, if it was on the drawing, it would have showed that it would have been enough to handle it.
And again, we had nothing to do with it.
I understand that.
And it may not be on there, and it may be on, I don't know.
Well, Joe Voigtlander, you talked to Joe, didn't you? What did he say?
He didn't say much. Cause he didn't say much cause he didn't like the way we were gonna do this building, so he kinda went around the roundabout way about the drainage. And he had mentioned about putting an intake in the parking lot. But I said we probably, as of right now, we're not blacktopping it. We just will leave the gravel so we have a little bit of a sponge during these rains.
Yeah.
So,
You're talking about the plans for the home health building, correct? The one that's already been built, that's what you're
That's
talking
Right.
exactly.
When that was being built, there should have been some kind of plans. It should have been engineered, should have showed drainage.
So, not that we're going to do it, but what is your request?
My request is to have some drainage put in. And I guess, I don't want that building built until we got something figured out. Because I know damn well what's gonna happen, it'll be built, yeah, we'll look in the drainage and that, and it goes away.
Well, we're not gonna blacktop a parking lot, so it's gonna be.
I didn't say.
So nothing's gonna change from today till after the building's up, it's gonna be the same. I would
Right.
think, You know,
But I want something saying, something's gonna be done. I don't wanna hear, yeah, we'll look into it, and nothing happens. I'm sorry, I've been with the city and the council, I've seen this shit happen, and you talk, and then all at once, well, we'll just forget about it, maybe he'll just let it go. Guess what, I'm not.
how about we do this? If you say you're gonna go to the city council.
I will go to the next meeting.
And we'll also stay involved, and if Jerry thinks that the storm sewer is not up to capacity,
He should have the specs on that how much drainage can come out
and
of
then
that.
we will highly consider, if it's not up to capacity, put a drain in the parking lot of the building and hook into the.
That's all I'm asking,
Here's the thing. You all heard the story. You know what runs downhill? Well, water's the same thing. And waterways are natural, and the lay of the land is how the good Lord made this.
Right.
And water has always went down that way. You unfortunately are in a bad spot. The city has put in a sewer system that's supposed to.
And it covered it.
He's got a point that there was grass there before and that absorbed it, and if we.
That's the thing, Steve, that you're not understanding. It was grass to begin with, and it handled it with no problem at all. Even when they put in the cement.
I know that, but you
Street.
can't have a half a town with empty lots sitting on it.
I'm not saying that, Steve. When that was cemented out here, that was before that building was built. There was never no problem with flooding in front. It handled it, no problem at all. You build a building and you cement everything, where's your water going?
It goes down to the street.
Right, and it's flooding it.
Whose street is that?
Mine.
No.
Yes, I paid for that street out in front of my place like he did.
All right, it's a city street and it's a city sewer.
Right?
There should be drainage through the city.
I'm not saying it's part of the city's fault. Jerry should have been here and told you guys before that building was built, should have been drainage put in. And maybe it was, and the last supervisors didn't do shit about it. Plain and simple.
Again, you add an inlet and it's not gonna go down the pipe, we're not gaining.
That's why I think we should just.
Right. I agree with you on that, Steve. I don't have no problem with it.
Him go to the city council and let's get it figured out if it's
You're
not
going to have to
capacity.
visit with your city fathers to find out
Right,
how they can help everyone involved.
right. But I come here to bring the issue up because you're building and you're dumping out into the street again.
But we're not doing anything illegal.
That you know of.
Well, again,
I could take and sign a piece of paper too from the city saying, yes, you got permission to build this building.
yeah,
But they're not looking into it because they're drainage. I'm sorry, I know what happens up there. I've been up there enough.
well,
And I know.
you know, the water drainage for the street is through the city sewer system. And
Yes.
if it's not handling,
Right. But if you're pushing more onto it,
but it's our right.
what do you mean you're right?
It isn't any different than a house being built there.
Your drainage from your house does not necessarily go out to the street, Steve. A lot of it drains into your yard. All my runoff from the roof goes out into the grass.
Everything we take off of the roof of the building, if we take that underground and take it into the storm sewer, we're not actually shedding any more water than what was there because we're diverting it.
Everything off your roof,
What I'm saying is, if we put storm gutters on the building,
right,
put it all underground, go into the city's storm sewer system, we're not shedding any more water than what's actually there. Actually, we're
right.
improving that.
If you're taking it off from your roof and putting it out in the
The area
storm,
of the building, we're removing that from watershed and it's going underground.
right,
So there's a
That I
way to do-
understand what
There's a
you're
way
doing.
to do this other than putting the intake into the parking lot.
but now off your home health care, all your water off your roof runs out into the parking lot and everything. All your drains, they don't run underground.
So far, we haven't had a flood issue with the way that's been set up. You haven't had it.
Not in your parking lot, but out in our street we have.
Yeah, you've said that the street is taking care of it. You have not had a flood event at your house yet, so the way it is right now, nothing has happened.
But it's
And
close.
we can only design for so many inches of rain.
That I
If we get a
understand.
12-inch rain, stuff's gonna
Right,
happen.
you're gonna have a lot.
And everything is cost prohibitive as far as, we can't build bridges for a 12-inch rain. We design it on a 4-inch rain. I don't know what the city does in the town.
Cause right now you
But we're not gonna design for something,
Right.
for these huge major rain events.
you got a 3-inch curb and you got, from there, mine goes up like this to my sidewalk.
So
I've had it within a foot of my sidewalk coming over.
So to go back on what I said, as far as if we put rain gutters on the building and take all that underground into the storm sewer system, we're actually improving the drainage from what
Yes.
we're going to do.
For that building, for what
Would
you're
you be
gonna
happy
do.
with that?
Yeah, but see, there's no intake that runs in front of your place. out on Pleasant. It quits right there and you gotta go across the road. So there you're
No,
talking,
there's an intake on the north
Right
side
on
of
the
the road.
corner.
not on your corner there, right?
Yeah, I think there is.
It's over on this side. It's on the east side of the road.
East side of the driveway, or,
Well, where the intake is now,
there's intakes on the
On
north
Pleasant.
side of the road.
right. You got one on, that's where you're talking running into.
I'm talking on the east-west street, right by your place, there's intake on the north-south.
There's two of them there.
Yeah.
I thought for the new building you were talking about running underground. I misunderstood.
No, that's what I am, running it underground on the new building and tapping it into one of those intakes that's on the.
That's what I was saying about running the intake up the driveway there and running your intakes from your building into that. And that's catching the water that's coming around the alley into there before it gets to the street.
There are some things that we could look at to do.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it'd make more sense, you know, if you're gonna put everything underground. You can put your intake down in that driveway, you could put it down 4 foot deep and run everything from your building into that and catch from the road. You could go with a grate, 3x3 or 4x4 grate, adjustable,
Okay.
that could go in there. Yes, I don't have no problem for you guys doing it that way. That's what I'm hoping.
Some things we have to look at.
Yeah, there's things gotta look at, and I'll bring it up with the city council, and they're gonna have to, you know, do something too. It just can't be all pushed out in the street.
But again, you've gotta have the line, the pipe underground to take it.
That I understand, but I think they got enough where it will cover it with no problem. Cause if your dad remembers that all being put in, cause see, you got a 3-inch stroke, and you got all that downpour with everything coming in, it's not gonna handle that all at once. It's gonna back up down the street. Eventually it goes down. It slows down the rain and everything, and yeah,
Again, there's a reason you only have a 3-inch opening. That's
Yeah.
something that isn't supposed to go down there.
but not all the,
Child or a
Right.
body.
but not all the throats are 3-inch, some are 4, some are 5. It varies where you're at, and when they put the road in.
All right, well, I guess you'll have to visit with the city fathers.
Yep.
Have you had property damage because of the water?
No, but see, it comes up so much right there. That's why now we're turning around before something's being built and shoved out there. Well, now you
I
got,
just wondered if you've had
Yeah,
damage in the
no.
past.
No.
Because we've had some torrential rains.
yes, we
The last
have,
5
and it's
years,
getting to be more and more.
Oh, yeah. Not this year, but
Yeah,
that's why I just wondered if it's,
that's why I brought it up now, and that with this new building being built, something's gotta be done.
All right, well,
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
good luck at the city meeting.
Nothing new.
Okay, moving on, nyacog loan review, committee appointment, and we are going to table that until after we have a new development director appointed, who will be able to accept that position and go to these meetings, so that will just be tabled. Are we agreeable to that?
Yes.
yes.
Any applications for a new director?
We've had like, I think about 8 requests for applications that haven't had any turned back in.
So, Rich, did we handle that correctly,
What's that?
our last discussion?
Water's always tricky.
Yeah.
Downstream has to accept water. The key is whether or not the city has any formidable requirements that you do a pre and post construction drainage analysis. If there isn't a requirement, most people aren't going to spend the extra money to do it because it can be expensive. Whether your water runs off in your grass area or not, if your grass is saturated, it's not going to take it, it's going to run to the street. But there's some truth to if you start paving everything, and there is no absorption factor anymore, so you're gonna get more water into the streets. But I think the key right now is, does the city have a requirement? Because right now, if there isn't one, then there's really no obligation for any builder to put something in. If you want to be a good neighbor, that's one thing. It's going to be expensive, but you know, the systems are designed for natural runoff, and like Jim said, and what everybody else has said,
Well, if it's
these
at
bigger
full-
rain events cause problems.
If it's at full capacity, it can't take any more, and another entrance in is not gonna help.
And I don't know where all the water comes from, if that pipe starts there, if there's more drainage from upstream into that sewer, not knowing the size, but there are a lot of things going on. He's got valid points. The more you pave, the more water comes down. You're not dumping, well, you're not really dumping more water, but it all depends on whether there's a requirement by the city to do something. Where I used to work in Clear Lake, the city of Clear Lake had a pre and post drainage analysis requirement. And if you had a certain percentage more runoff, you had to do a detention basin or find a way to get rid of, to detain that water and have it outflow as it would prior to construction. I don't know if Osage has that or not. If they don't, there's no requirement. I understand their point, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot more than just, I want you to do this. There's things. There are things that can be done. It's going to cost.
Right.
But there's also, our facilities on that block are also accepting water from upstream too. We just don't happen to be at the very bottom. Well, the street's at the very bottom.
Yeah.
And the street is the holding pond for the large rain events when they come down.
Yeah, the church is liable for it too.
The drainage has changed.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. The drainage has changed. And but the key things are, yes, there are no houses there anymore. There's more pavement. But as Steve said, we do have a lot more rain events, or heavier rain events too, that aren't helping the situation. So.
And we have the right to develop our lot.
Yeah.
Gotta be good neighbors too, we can't just.
Well, it's no different than being out on a farm.
But you try to be a good neighbor.
There's some points that I know that there's, even in the country, there's people that want to redirect water and pinpoint an outlet to dump on somebody else because they don't want it. That's intentional. And you shouldn't be doing that.
But we're not changing the way the water flows.
I understand that.
City of St. Ansgar had the same problem when they built all those houses up east and west, and that comes right down.
Hindsight should have been detention pond for that big of a development, and what they took out.
At one time, like the detention pond up there.
And why it didn't, and as far as the other building, I don't know whether there was anything in the plans for the old home health building, whether they required it or not. It could have been an option put in the plans, and it was an option whether or not it was required. You know, there's a lot going on, and obviously there's some frustration with water. You want to be a good neighbor. There's also how far does a person go to be a good neighbor if they're not doing anything wrong. But
And he's had no property damage so far, so.
right, and it would be interesting to find out too, when that water backs up to the sidewalk, how long does it take for it to drain down? If it's more than 24 hours, there might be a problem.
Right.
In reality, it's more than 24 hours before it drains down.
I'm sure there's other streets in Osage here that flood too when we get heavy rains, you know. They do it every time.
My guess is that building was built and it was a gravel parking lot to start with, and we probably never had any issues. It
Well,
was
and
being.
gravel doesn't always accept a lot of water either. Once it starts getting when you get it hard packed and it's already saturated, it's gonna run off like a pavement.
Correct, but when I'm talking,
Right.
it's been quite a few years and we haven't had these.
Yeah, 2006 till now, that's a long time.
Yeah,
So,
and
It's the last 15 years is where we've been getting the big rain events. And things have changed.
there are things that can be done, there's no doubt about it. It's just a matter
It
of how
just
far.
is as if the city's sewer line isn't going to accept any more water. You know, with all the outlets we put in, we do not gain anything.
The county got a building permit, right, from the city to build,
Yes.
and I don't know that on that permit, were there any requirements for drainage or anything like that that would?
I don't know.
David would be the only one that would
David's got it.
remember any of this, and he's already gone.
That's fine, I just was curious because I would think that if there was something, that would be something that the city would say, you got to
Yeah.
look into this and do
I don't,
drain posts.
from what I know, there's nothing. I date never said anything.
You know, and I'm guessing, you can stop out, I got questions on that stuff anyway, but for the size of the building going in, yeah, you're taking more green space out, not near as much as what the home health building and the parking lot had taken out before. the impact's gonna be minor compared to what that did, but it's still gonna be an impact.
Well, again, there was a house there not that many years ago.
So where, and I said this, and so where I was going with this is that there has been, he has not had any flooding with the way the current system is set up as far as the building that's been built. We're gonna build this building right now, so I don't know if there's been storm gutters bid on this, put in on this building or not, if it's part of the deal. But if we were to take the drainage that comes off the roof of our new building, goes down the downspout, and then actually put 12-inch dual wall pipe, maybe 15 underground, tap it into the city storm sewer. So anything that's hitting our building is going underground into the storm sewer.
Yep.
We're actually improving the drainage from what it is right now, because everything that touches our roof is going underground right away. That's gonna be a lot cheaper than putting intake in an asphalt parking lot and re-asphalting the parking lot.
True, if you're gonna dig to the sewer line, though, maybe you size it so that that's a possibility.
Say that a different way.
Well, if you're gonna dig and tap into the storm sewer with gutters, maybe you should consider putting a pipe in for a potential intake, and then you could run your drain, your gutters into the intake, and then it's gonna be about the same amount of digging. You're gonna have the cost of a structure in the parking lot, which will add cost, but your run will be shorter from your building to the intake and then out to the street too. If, you know, if that's what you guys choose to do, or if you think that might work better.
And if that's what we wanna do, we wanna be doing it before we need to resurface that parking lot, which is gonna happen in the next.
I don't think
couple
what
of years.
you plan on doing is gonna affect the construction of the building. You can do some of this after the fact, like trenching in with a trencher for gutters and stuff, you can do stuff out there. But just food for thought.
You probably need a mini for the, if you're gonna, I mean, you need a 12-inch dual wall pipe and.
You wouldn't want to,
for.
if you're gonna put something in the ground, make it big enough to take it.
I will come visit you.
Sure, and like I said, there's a lot to this. It's not just, I want this done. There are requirements, and if there aren't, like I said, if there aren't requirements, then not many people are gonna go the extra mile to do it. You know, it's expensive, and so.
All right.
Everyone has a valid point that's both. I mean, we wanna be a good neighbor, and Mother Nature's doing it, and here's our options, and we wanna be, you know, just finding common ground. So, anyway.
Thank you much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I guess I can't see how we, the county, can be held liable for his issues with, you know, the water and the street.
I drove it yesterday, and that's why they put 2 intakes there, is because that 150 years ago was the waterway that's on the east side of his house. And that's the way it is, but also Mark's got a great point. We gotta be decent about it, so if there's something that we can do to try to improve it, we should maybe try to improve it, but we shouldn't be just throwing money away just to try to, if it's not gonna do any good, if you're throwing $100 bills
We
or
don't
something,
wanna do it.
then there's no reason to do that.
Correct.
So there's some things that need to be figured out.
Maybe the city will work with us too. you know?
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
We're tapping into
work
their stuff.
together,
they
be a
don't
good
stop.
neighbor. I think it's.
And what you said, with church.
Stop the rain.
Okay.
Actually, I'll just
We've
go
got
pull
good-
baskets out
good-
there. Little bucket.
discussion.
Take it over to me.
So, did you just volunteer?
Yes.
We'll designate those positions.
Anyways, we'll move on. Action on temporary county redistricting commission. And we have picked Rita DeVore, Tom Kenny, Jolene Norby, Lowell Tesh, and Joe Volklander as the 5 people that would be on this committee. And resolution 1094-21, we can approve them. So I guess if any discussion on this?
Be a good board.
I think it'd be a good board.
Yeah, the only question I have is, how will they be contacted at some point? Do you contact them, or?
comfortable for these 5 names? I guess we have motions to approve them as being the 5 redistricting committee members.
I'll move to make that motion.
I'll second that.
Bob has made a motion, Mike has seconded. Any further discussion?
Roll call, Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mark.
So we have approved resolution 1094-21 approving Rita DeVore, Tom Kenny, Jolene Norby, Lowell Tesh, and Joe Volklander as our redistricting committee. So, moving on, items of note, meetings attended. Do we have anybody that would like to go first?
I'll go first. I know Rich has got to get out of here, so I'm going to be real quick. I went to Osage High School. It was called a thing called LEAD. It's where students develop a plan, implement a project, and carry the project out to the end. They had a number of tables at the CRC. I would imagine there were a dozen, maybe more. And you talk with the students in regards to what they did. Some of them have great ideas, and it teaches them to not be on a screen all the time doing stuff, but actually having to talk to people and develop things. It teaches them skills that they really can't learn in the classroom. One of them is helping to be the, you could say, the general contractor for the pickleball court that's going to be constructed here. He's putting all the ends together to make that happen. Another gal had a food delivery service that she implemented so that people were getting meals during the COVID times, and she earned enough money that she donated it to the sheriff's department. Another gal had the 1st through 5th graders write letters to people that are in hospice so that they can they can read these letters. She found all these hospice sources to send these letters to. So there are a number of really great projects that they were involved with, and it just teaches them things that they don't necessarily learn in the classroom. So, that's it.
I had none.
Okay. I had last night, we had the North Iowa Area Council of Governments meeting. Majority of the people went to Zoom, but meetings that I don't like Zoom meetings and I can't hear well and I don't understand unless really I'm at the meeting. So I went to the nyacog building and there was 4 of us in the meeting. And we did have a quorum of, I think, 13 people. Also, a total of 13 people. Jim Erb is the chair. We approved the agenda, we approved the meetings of March 8th, the board meeting minutes. Treasurer gave a report for February and March. Stated we had a little higher than normal numbers because of government help and COVID. But everything is on track. Moving on, we did communications and reports, and discussed the 2021 legislative session. Discussed the COVID update and the American Rescue Plan. And I think there's money coming for every city and county, and this is based on population, $135 per person for cities and $185 per county. And that is in a general account, and it will be paid in 2 payments. The state will also be getting monies from this. We don't know how the state will spend this. That's still being worked out. The revolving loan fund update. This is a request for funds, and the monies will be put out at a rate of 2% interest. And home modification program. The state of Iowa had given a grant of $1.2 million. And this was to make critical repairs on homes of older people to keep them from going into senior citizen centers or homes. And the only holdup is that it is a limit of $4,000 per home. And this is up for usage in the 8 region, the 8 county that are part of this region, the NYACOG Commission. So that money is still out there if anybody was interested in it. And I think they were going to send us some literature, and Rachel, they have some pamphlets they'll send sometime to set up there at the auditor's office. On new business, we had a resolution approving the for year 22 transportation planning work program, and it was approved. It's a comprehensive plan from Chris Diggins. There also was a 4-year plan and a 20-year plan that was discussed. On old business, this has been in the past. This is from some accidents that have happened with the NYACOG bus transportation. And the one was the Pals Clear Lake bus accident, and that was a kind of a bad deal. A gal lost her life. They are just getting together. The family has requested a meeting with ISAC. That's the insurance company. So any discussion as to how to resolve that. And then the other accident was the DeVries accident. And from my understanding, this person was riding in the bus, and the bus driver had hit the brakes to avoid an accident, and this person fell out of their chair, got hurt, or out of their bus seat, got hurt, and it was noted that this person did not want to wear seat belts in the past and didn't want to put his protective straps on, and so it's thought that the NYACOG will not be at fault, and the insurance company is going to still meet with the DeVries family, but it isn't as important a deal as the previously discussed accident. And the last of the meeting that was set for the next meeting would be September 13th, 2021. So that was my meeting.
Tracy, do you also have information about that older home fund thing? Is that something that you could, in case somebody calls, you'd have some information about it? Great, thank you.
It sounded like Myrtle was going to send some paperwork to be put up in the courthouse at the auditor's office.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mark?
I just had that Heartland Insurance one. Can't add much more than Judy had. They're emphasizing on that cybersecurity thing. And of course, that pipeline got hit this weekend in East Coast. You think middle school kids have more important things to do than that, but it was not.
I'd hate to guess the legal financial liability of all that's going to happen from that.
Must be some smart kids out there.
In India,
Yeah.
or wherever.
Yeah.
Where they were.
Indeed, I don't know. I mean,
Well, they indicate that it has some Russian, there's some Russian help there. I heard on the news this morning.
that's all right.
Todd?
FMC DCAT, just a special meeting to approve a few budgetary items before the June 30th deadline. Mitchell County Fair, just the norm, trying to get things lined up. They've got 6 or 7 benches already that people have already talked about. Sweet corn feed Wednesday, don't miss it. It's free. And then I had an urban renewal amendment meeting at City Hall, just on some items that they go through most every year.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. moving on, manure management plan updates, Rachel.
There is one for Double K Farming, and it is 1134 420th Street in St. Ansgar.
Well, we're at the tail end of the meeting, is there any public comments?
Briceville High School at 11:15, they're receiving the Carrie Chapman Cat Award from the Secretary of State, Paul Bates, for registering 90% of their eligible high school, and that National High School Voter Registration Day.
Okay.
You're headed there?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yes. All right, any other comments? Hearing none? Meeting over. Thank you.
That one is.
Applications in your office.
Yeah, I have them.